Hello, my name is Paul Zukowski, and in this presentation, I'll be comparing the standards from the Interstate Teacher Assessment and Support Consortium, also known as InTASC, put out by the CCSSO, which is the Council of Chief State School Officers. And I'll be comparing those with the standards from the National Science Teacher Association / the Association for Science Teacher Education, or the NSTA/ASTE. Throughout this presentation, I'll be referring to that joint group of standards as just the NSTA. My objectives in this presentation, as I'll be comparing and contrasting the InTASC with the NSTA standards primarily. Then I'll be discussing how these standards address professional collaboration and data-driven instructional decision-making. Finally, I'll describe how teachers are expected to improve their practice and advance the profession of education within the context of these standard sets. First, I want to identify the similarities between InTASC and the NSTA. There are several standard sets that actually share the exact same name. They're not identical, but they do have some very distinct similarities. For instance, standard number 4 in InTASC shares the same name as standard number 1 in the NSTA, which is content knowledge. And standard number 3 is the same for both of them, learning environments. I'll go in depth with both of those in just a moment. There are some other standards that share some striking similarities as well, such as standard number 5, which is the application of content in the InTASC, and NSTA's content pedagogy, which is standard number 2. I will not be looking into these ones for today's presentation, but I will be primarily focusing on content knowledge and learning environments. So, content knowledge is the first area of comparison that I'll be diving into, and I'll be discussing how the expectations of teachers with their core content as well as education as a whole is similar between InTASC and the NSTA. Some direct quotations first from these standards themselves. The summaries of the content knowledge standards from InTASC is: the teacher understands the central concepts, tools of inquiry, and structures of the disciplines he or she teaches and creates learning experiences that make these aspects of the discipline accessible and meaningful for learners to assure mastery of the content. In the NSTA, the summary reads: effective teachers of science understand and articulate the knowledge and practices of contemporary science and engineering. They connect important disciplinary core ideas, cross-cutting concepts, and science and engineering practices for their fields of licensure. Both of these are saying very similar content requirements. Teachers are expected to understand the basics of not just their field, but also the field of education as a whole. How the content knowledge standards relate to the knowledge, skills, and values of effective teachers is similar for both of them. For knowledge, teachers understand the core concept for their discipline. They know how their discipline relates to other classes and content, and teachers understand standards and learning progressions. Skills, teachers guide students to gain conceptual understanding. They cross-cut concepts from multiple disciplines with their students, and they implement their standards for their students to progress effectively. Through all of these, the guiding principles and values are that teachers prioritize effective learning for their students, and mastering content knowledge not only includes their subject, but how to effectively communicate with their students. The second theme I'll be investigating and comparing is learning environments. From the NSTA, it states that effective teachers of science are able to plan for engaging all students in science learning by identifying appropriate learning goals that are consistent with knowledge of how students learn science and are aligned with standards. Plans reflect the selection of phenomena appropriate to the social context of the classroom and community, and safety considerations to engage students in the nature of science and engineering sciences practices. Effective teachers create an anti-bias, multicultural, and social justice learning environment to achieve these goals. InTASC is a little bit more brief, but it gets the same point across. The teacher works with others to create environments that support individual and collaborative learning, and that encourage positive social interaction, active engagement in learning, and self-motivation. Through both of these principles, the same basic ideas are applied. NSTA's primarily focuses more on a laboratory classroom setting, where InTASC is a more general approach. Again, knowledge, skills, and values that teachers need are demonstrated in these standards. For knowledge, teachers know how motivation and engagement relate for students. They know how to promote productivity, and they know how to use technology effectively to promote that productivity with students. For skills, teachers then use that knowledge to plan lessons in diverse environments. They plan lessons to engage all students in the classroom and promote critical thinking. Through all of those, the guiding values are that teachers recognize learner diversity affects communication and values the ability for every student to engage with the material, learn, and grow as a student. Now, how these two standards address collaboration is based on what the collaboration actually is. Collaboration can strengthen teacher expertise and educational advocacy. Collaboration between teachers, between students, there's many different ways for teachers to collaborate. Now in InTASC, there's a heavier focus on collaboration with the school and the immediate community, whereas NSTA does discuss this, but has a heavier focus on the scientific community as a whole, being the community you collaborate with. Specifically, what they say about collaboration in InTASC, they say the teacher seeks appropriate leadership roles and opportunities to take responsibility for student learning, to collaborate with learners, families, colleagues, other school professionals, and community members to ensure learner growth and to advance the profession. The NSTA states that effective teachers of science strive to continuously improve their knowledge of both science content and pedagogy, including approaches for addressing inequities and inclusion for all students in science. They identify with and conduct themselves as part of the science education community. Now, how do they use data-driven instruction to guide these principles? Well, data-driven instruction is a pedagogy that focuses on using science and data as the basis for developing a curriculum for student needs. Data is at the core of both the InTASC and the NSTA standards. This cycle of data-based decision-making, as demonstrated right here, is first develop a culture of collaboration online, dig into a single source of data, triangulate findings, move from learners' needs to shifts to instruction, and then develop an action plan and corresponding assessments. Within that framework, InTASC and NSTA operate as such. Teachers are expected to use data to improve instruction and support learner success. To that end, teachers must know how to develop useful assessments, they must know how to balance formative and summative assessments, and they must know how to correctly interpret data to understand student progress. In the NSTA, effective teachers provide evidence that students have learned and can apply core ideas. Their assessments are created to effectively evaluate student comprehension and understanding. Data collected in formative and summative evaluations is used to inform future planning and lessons. And assessment data based on student demographics influences their lesson plans as well. Very similar approaches, similar goals that both of them are trying to reach. Now with InTASC, there was a line that we needed to address, which is what does it mean to advance the profession and improve practice? Within those guidelines, InTASC states that there are different ways that teachers collaborate with their environment. There are ways to collaborate with learners, with teachers, with families, and with communities. With learners, it's giving feedback on work, building communication, and meeting the needs of the learners. With teachers, it's collaborating to meet the student needs and create a culture of positive learning environment. Families, it's establishing communication and building a support structure for learners, and with communities, finding community resources to enhance student learning, and as well as seeking out professional development. In summary, InTASC and NSTA have many similarities. Many of the same issues are prioritized in each. They both rely heavily on data to reach their conclusions, and advancing the profession drives education forward is at the heart of both of them. Thank you.